He raised a toast to our daughter's success and destroyed our marriage in the same breath. The Montclair Grill in the suburbs of Seattle was buzzing with the sound of celebration. Laughter, silverware, the soft clink of champagne flutes. Our daughter Emily had just graduated magna cum laude, and this dinner was supposed to be a moment of pride and joy. Then David, my husband of 28 years, stood up, glass in hand. His smile was confident, almost smug. I expected him to speak about Emily's brilliance, her future, maybe even how proud we were as parents. But instead he said, "I've decided to start a new life without Sarah." The entire room froze. Someone dropped a fork. Emily stared at him in shock. The silence that followed was thick, palpable, and all eyes turned to me, expecting a scene. A breakdown, tears, rage. But what they saw instead was a smile. Not because I was okay, but because I was prepared. Without a word, I reached into my handbag and pulled out a cream envelope. I slid it next to David's plate. "You'll want to read this later," I said evenly. Emily looked at me, stunned. I kissed her cheek. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. Don't let anyone steal this moment from you." I stood up, smoothed my dress, and turned to the stunned crowd. "Please, enjoy your meal. Have a lovely afternoon." I walked out of that restaurant while 50 pairs of eyes followed me. Behind me, David was still standing, glass in hand, unaware that everything was about to come crashing down. What he didn't know? That envelope contained the start of my comeback, a plan I'd crafted in silence, down to the final detail. He dropped a bomb in front of our friends. I dropped a bigger one, silently. I didn't look back as the restaurant doors swung shut behind me. The soft click of my heels on the pavement was the only sound I needed. Inside, David was still holding his champagne glass, clueless that the world he built on lies had just started to collapse. The evening air in Seattle was crisp, but my pulse was steady, controlled. I had waited for this moment, and I didn't come unarmed. 2 blocks down, my silver Lexus sat parked by a lamppost. Each step I took felt like shedding another layer of pain, denial, and silent sacrifice. Then, behind me, the doors burst open. "Sarah!" David's voice cracked through the air, loud and panicked. "What the hell was that? What's in the envelope?" I didn't stop walking. He didn't know. He had no idea. Inside that envelope was a copy of our divorce filing, detailed records of his secret transactions, screenshots of bank transfers to a hidden account, and most importantly, our prenup, the same one he demanded 28 years ago to protect his future wealth, with a fidelity clause he never thought would matter. It mattered now. I opened the car door, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, David stood frozen on the sidewalk, face pale, fists clenched. He had played his hand in public, but I had been playing chess for months, and he was already in check. He thought I was blind, but I was building a case, one transaction at a time. It started with a $1,248 wire transfer. Not huge, but odd. The account name wasn't familiar, the timestamp 3:12 a.m., and I've managed finances for 2 decades. Patterns are my instinct. I didn't accuse, I observed. David thought I was too trusting to notice. What he didn't realize, I was documenting everything. Each night after he went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with his bank app open on my laptop. Every transaction told a story he didn't think I could read. A luxury dinner in San Francisco, a Rolex purchase, a condo deposit in Palm Beach. He was building a secret life, and I was footing the bill. 3 months, that's how long I tracked him. Quietly, meticulously. I compiled screenshots, traced IPs, flagged transfers, even pulled phone GPS logs. I met with attorneys, consulted with forensic accountants, and most importantly, I pulled out our prenup. Clause 17, fidelity remains enforceable for the duration of the marriage. The same clause he had insisted on 28 years ago to protect himself. Oh, the irony. He gave me the weapon. I just waited for the right time to use it. That envelope I placed beside his champagne glass? It wasn't revenge. It was the opening move. And I never make a move without knowing exactly how the game ends. He told me to cut back on spending while he was buying diamond earrings for someone else. David kept saying we needed to tighten the budget. He canceled our 30th anniversary trip, said my birthday gift this year should be something small and meaningful, told me not to buy the new massage chair, too much of a luxury right now. And I believed him. For a while. But credit card statements don't lie. A Tiffany's receipt. A weekend getaway to Napa Valley for two. Reservations at the kind of restaurants we used to only dream about. All in his name. All billed to our money. All hidden. Until I started connecting the dots. And there it was. Rachel. 17 years younger than me. Yoga instructor. Pretty. Energetic. Carefree. She once attended Emily's birthday party at our home. I gave her a slice of cake. Now she was sleeping with my husband. David told me not to overthink. What he didn't know, I was documenting everything. Printouts, photos, bank transfers, secret messages. I lined them up on the wall of our home office, like a detective building a case. Rachel got the diamonds. I got the receipts. And the receipts will bury him. He made me sign the prenup. He never imagined I'd be the one using it. Back then, he called it just a formality. David said his parents were investing in his startup, and a prenup was just smart business. I didn't argue. I was in love. I believed him. I signed. But I never forgot Clause 12. In the event of infidelity, the violating party forfeits rights to all shared assets. He wrote that clause. I just remembered it, and tucked the original, signed document into a fireproof safe right beneath our wedding photo. Poetic justice, really. When I pieced everything together, the late-night transfers, the weekend getaways, the diamond earrings, I opened that safe with calm precision. I handed a copy to my attorney. She glanced over it once, then smiled. We have all we need. David had no idea that the envelope I left beside his dinner plate didn't just hold proof of betrayal. It held the legal blueprint to take everything back. He thought he knew the rules, but I've lived by them longer than he ever did. And now, the law is on my side. He thought he was in control, but I filed first. I had the facts, the lawyer, and the timeline. David had it all mapped out. He'd wait until after Emily's graduation. Keep it clean. Keep the optics nice. Drop the news like it was his decision. Too bad the divorce papers were filed 3 days earlier. I had met with my attorney weeks before. We built the case piece by piece. Every transfer, every hotel charge, every message to Rachel. I didn't need to cause a scene at the restaurant. The court would do the talking for me. What David didn't know? His little toast, the one where he announced his new life, was made in front of 50 witnesses. And that moment? Documented. Under oath? Admissible. Clause 12 of the prenup didn't care how charming he was. It cared that he cheated. Publicly. That envelope I handed him wasn't drama. It was a legal timestamp, and everything was falling right into place. He planned to leave quietly after graduation. I packed his bags before he could. I turned onto Maplewood Drive, where the lawns were manicured and the neighbors waved like everything was fine. Our 2-story colonial sat at the end of the cul-de-sac, still pristine, still perfect. Except it wasn't ours anymore. Not really. I unlocked the front door with the same key I'd used for 15 years. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, landing on framed photos that still pretended we were a happy family. I walked up the stairs slowly, deliberately. Each step was a reminder. I had carried this marriage far longer than he deserved. The master bedroom was exactly how we left it. But the closet? That was mine now. 3 suitcases sat zipped, stacked by the door. His navy suits, his polished shoes, his favorite ties, packed with surgical precision. David had planned to leave the day after the graduation. I just made sure he didn't have to waste any time. No shouting, no drama. I packed with my hands, and with a dignity he couldn't destroy. I sat down in the reading chair by the window. Outside, the backyard shimmered with Texas sunlight. That's where Emily learned to ride her bike. I let out a breath, not because I was broken, because I was finally free. Everything was falling apart, and I was the only one who knew I'd survive the collapse. He thought he had control. What he didn't know? I had the evidence and the law. I was sitting in the living room, laptop open, reviewing the final files from my attorney. The moment the front door slammed, I didn't flinch. I didn't have to look up to know it was David. "Sarah," he barked. "What the hell is going on?" I calmly closed my laptop and looked at him, not as a wife, but as someone who had already won. "You said you were starting a new life. I'm just making sure the transition's smooth." "You had no right." "I had every right," I cut in, voice steady. "Just like you had the right to choose Rachel. We all make choices, David. Yours just came with consequences. He squared his shoulders, desperate to salvage control. That prenup expired years ago. Any lawyer will tell you that. I smiled. The kind of smile that says, you're already done. You just don't know it yet. Actually, no. Section 12, Fidelity Clause, remains in effect for the duration of the marriage. Your lawyer would have told you that. Oh, wait, you didn't call one, did you? The color drained from his face. Then I stood up, pulled out my phone, hit play. After the graduation, I'll tell her. In public. She won't make a scene. His voice, his words, his plan, recorded, crystal clear. He froze. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. And for the first time in years, I wasn't the one left speechless. He was. He didn't expect proof. I gave him his own voice. No arguments, no escape, just the truth, on tape. David stood frozen. The sound from my phone filled the room. His own voice, recorded crystal clear. After graduation, I'll tell her. Public place. She won't make a scene. Then Rachel's voice followed, light and smug. She doesn't know about the separate account, right? And David's reply, no. Sarah trusts me completely. That's her weakness. I didn't blink. You called my trust a weakness, I said quietly, but that trust made me alert the moment it cracked, and I followed it straight to the truth. He stumbled back, pale. You recorded me? That's illegal. I raised an eyebrow. Not in Texas. One-party consent. And guess whose house we're standing in? Silence. I tapped the screen, stopped the playback, and placed the phone on the coffee table like I was laying down a royal flush. There was nothing left to say. The man who thought he was in control was now cornered in a house he no longer owned. She thought she was the upgrade, until she realized he'd been lying to her, too. From promised paradise to collateral damage. Rachel walked in behind David, heels hesitant, eyes unfocused. Gone was the confident woman who used to flip her hair at holiday parties like she owned the future. Now, she didn't even own the room. She stood near the door, clutching her handbag like it was the only solid thing left in her world. She had heard the recording, and she'd just learned David had a private account, one she knew nothing about. The new life he promised her? A castle built on lies. Private account? Rachel's voice cracked. You told me that was our house money. David turned quickly. I was going to tell you, I just hadn't yet. How long were you planning to wait? She snapped. Her eyes glistened. Not with love, with betrayal. Then she turned to me. But there was no smugness, no triumph. Just the stunned look of a woman realizing she was never the main character in his story, just a rewritten chapter of an old mistake. She didn't cry, but I saw it, the silent collapse behind her mascara. Her fairy tale had cracked, and no one was coming to fix it. When your own daughter looks at you like a stranger, there's no coming back from that. Family didn't protect David. It collapsed around him. Lisa, David's sister, walked into the living room with the energy of a judge entering a courtroom. No hug, no hello. I warned you, David, she said coldly. David turned to her, exhausted and unraveling. Lisa, you don't understand. It's not that black and white. No, she cut him off. It's exactly that simple. I know who you are. That's why I chose her. Then the front door creaked again. Emily stepped in, still in her graduation dress, mascara smeared, eyes burning. That's your daughter, I whispered. The girl whose day you just shattered. David's voice cracked as he turned toward her. Emily, I'm sorry, I love you. She stood still, shoulders back, chin up, just like I taught her. You love me? She said, trembling at first, then stronger. Then why did you destroy me on the one day that was supposed to be about everything I worked for? You lied. You cheated. You hurt Mom so deeply I barely recognized her. I don't want to see you. Not today. Not tomorrow. Maybe not ever. It landed like a gut punch. David looked around, eyes desperate for anyone left in his corner. There was no one. Family wasn't his safety net. It was now the cage closing in. I didn't need to scream in court. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. When the truth is undeniable, justice doesn't waver. The courtroom was small. The tension? Anything but. David sat 2 rows away, wrinkled shirt, hollow eyes, next to a junior associate who clearly specialized in corporate law, not family court. The judge, gray-haired, no-nonsense, with a stare that could split stone, flipped through our prenuptial agreement page by page. I didn't blink. The fidelity clause remains valid for the duration of the marriage, she read aloud. No expiration clause is outlined in this document. David's head dropped. His attorney flushed. The hidden transfers, she continued, constitute a breach of financial disclosure. The freeze on joint assets will remain until full discovery is completed. I exhaled. Quietly, internally, like the calm after a thunderstorm. The Austin house? Mine, for now. The retirement accounts? Temporarily in my control. The full case? Escalating to formal investigation. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smirk. I just nodded. Because justice doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with paperwork, precedent, and truth. He betrayed 2 women. Now both are gone, and all he's left with is himself. Lisa texted me first. Rachel moved out. She found out about the money. I didn't even flinch. I'd seen it coming. Rachel once believed David was her golden ticket. New life, new apartment, new diamond ring. But once the accounts were frozen, the truth came crashing in. The condo deal fell through. No down payment. The new sports car canceled. The promises, just air. She left without a scene. No tears, no shouting. Just a key on the counter and a final message. This isn't the life I signed up for. David called Lisa that night, voice cracking, asking how everything unraveled so fast. Lisa gave him one answer: because you built your new life on lies, and lies don't have foundations. The apartment is empty now. His friends aren't returning calls. His personal account? Barely enough to cover next week. David once said he was starting over. But what he didn't realize was, truth has a start date too, and today, it arrived. They thought I'd fall apart. I didn't. I rebuilt. 1 secondhand desk, 2 mismatched chairs, a cactus on the windowsill, proof that something was still growing. The name? Blake Financial Transitions. Because that's what I had survived and what I would now help other women navigate. No longer David's wife. No longer just Emily's mom. I was Sarah Blake, founder, fighter, financial strategist, and finally my own damn person. The first client came through a friend. Then another, then 5 more. All women. Recently divorced, recently widowed, recently lost. They weren't looking for sympathy. They were looking for a way forward. I didn't just help them balance budgets. I helped them reclaim themselves. Every session, every signed contract, a brick in the new foundation I was building, one I owned, one no man could take from me. I wasn't just recovering. I was becoming. She used to see me as broken. Now she calls me her role model. And him? Nobody calls him anything anymore. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon. I was reorganizing my office when Emily walked in, with coffee, a tight hug, and words that nearly shattered me. You did it, Mom. I'm proud to carry your last name. I sat down, blinking back tears. We talked for hours. About clients, about the women I was helping, about how far things had come. And just before she left, she paused at the door and said, if I ever have a daughter, I want her to grow up to be like you. And David? Lisa said he moved out of the apartment, sold furniture to stay afloat. No one invites him out anymore. Rachel? Gone. Blocked him on everything. The man who once thought the world revolved around him now finds himself alone in the silence. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't need to. Because the best revenge is becoming everything they thought you never could. And I did. He made me sign it to protect himself. In the end, it protected me from him. The final hearing landed, ironically, on what would have been our 29th wedding anniversary. I wore a charcoal gray dress, hair pulled back, no jewelry. I wasn't dressing for sympathy. I was dressing for closure. David looked defeated. His suit hung looser. His new attorney was underprepared. Mine, Philip, had been with me from the first meeting, from the first receipt, to this final reckoning. The judge reviewed our prenup again, methodically. Her ruling came down clean and sharp. Per Section 12, the violation of marital fidelity entitles Mrs. Sarah Blake to 70% of the shared assets, full rights to the primary residence, and control over the designated retirement accounts. David said nothing. There was nothing left to argue, nothing left to spin. What he thought he could hide had become the very thing that dismantled him. I walked out of that courtroom not as a victor, but as someone who had survived and then won. I didn't just reclaim property, I reclaimed myself, and in the end, that was worth more than anything he ever tried to take. Forgiveness isn't always about them. Sometimes it's the gift you give yourself when you walk away. For good. The door didn't close with anger. It closed with clarity. After the ruling, David was waiting in the hallway. Gone was the arrogance, the control, the excuses. All that remained was a man who knew he'd lost everything that ever truly mattered. "Sarah," he said quietly, like he wasn't sure he deserved to speak my name. I was wrong. I didn't flinch. I didn't sneer. I looked him straight in the eye, the way you look at something that used to mean the world, but no longer defines you. "I never wanted you to lose everything," I said. "But you don't get to take everything from me and expect to walk away whole." He swallowed hard. If I had apologized sooner, if I had stopped, I shook my head, calm but final. "But you didn't, and I can't go back to someone who made me feel like I wasn't enough." Silence. Then, for the first time throughout this entire unraveling, David said something that wasn't for his benefit. "You deserve to be happy." I nodded, and I walked away. No tears, no second glance, because sometimes closure doesn't come from someone else. It comes when you finally choose yourself. I didn't just survive. I built a life so powerful it echoes louder than his silence ever could. 6 months later, I wasn't someone who got left. I was someone who rose. Sarah Blake Financial had moved to a larger office, 3 times the size, 3 full-time staff, and a client waitlist stretching into next quarter. On the glass door, the new sign shimmered in the Texas sun. "We don't just help you balance your money. We help you reclaim your worth." I walked in every morning, coffee in hand, heels clicking with purpose. The same people who once called me David's wife now introduced me as founder, lead advisor, the woman who turned pain into a platform. Emily called weekly from Charleston, recently promoted, glowing with her own momentum. She always ended her calls the same way. "You showed me women can start over and win." I didn't get revenge. I got restoration. And through that, I handed other women the blueprint to rebuild themselves. Sometimes, late in the evening, I'd catch my reflection in the office window. Not to fix my lipstick, just to whisper, "You became the woman, 25-year-old, you used to dream about." It was supposed to be our anniversary. Instead, it became the day I chose myself. No flowers, no toasts, just a woman reclaiming her name and her life. 29 years. It was meant to be an anniversary, a night of champagne and polite smiles, a shared table. But this year, it was just me, standing on the rooftop of my firm, a glass of red wine in hand, Texas wind brushing my cheekbones. Below, the city buzzed with a life I once watched from behind someone else's story. No more pretending, no more shrinking, no more apologizing for wanting more. That evening, I made a reservation at my favorite restaurant, the one David always said was too extravagant for regular nights. I went alone. I ordered what I loved. I raised my glass, not to what was, but to what is. I didn't need a witness. But if someone had asked what I was celebrating, I'd have smiled. Today marks something sacred. I've spent enough years living for someone else. Starting now, I live for me. I won't thank the pain, but I'll always thank myself for rising from it. If you asked me where the turning point was, I wouldn't say the courtroom. Not the recordings. Not even the moment he raised a glass and tried to erase 28 years. No. The real shift came the day I looked in the mirror and said, "I deserve more than this." I used to believe betrayal was the end of something. But really, it was the beginning. It burned away what was fake. It forced me to see what was broken, and it revealed the steel I had hidden inside, forgotten even by me. From the ashes, I rose, not restored, rebuilt, stronger, wiser, unapologetically clear. Women don't need a rescue, we just need a reason. And sometimes betrayal is reason enough to build the life we were always meant to live.